everybody, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Well folks, as you can see from the opening world logo, we're going to go into the 100 Acre Wood to visit Winnie the Pooh and his pals. You know, it's been about 2 years since the last time I looked at a Pooh-related movie, and so far in the past, I've only looked at 3 of these, like Christopher Robin, along with the Tigger movie, and of course, Pooh's Grand Adventure, The Search for Christopher Robin. And in case you're wondering, I'm really ticked off that some weirdo has turned the most beloved icon of childhood into a raging, killing monster. Anyway, for some time now, I've had the craziest idea of looking at 3 animated Pooh films this week. And for this episode, we're going to look at a package movie from the late 70s, which features Pooh's first 3 shorts. But, does it still hold up today? Well, let's find out. Released on March 11th, 1977, the movie is The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Now, the film joins together 3 classic Winnie the Pooh animated featurettes based on the original A.A. Milne sources, which were Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree from 1966, Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day from 1968, and Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2 from 1974, where Pooh battles a nest of vicious bees over a trove of honey, weathers a terrible windstorm, and endures the foibles of the hyperactive Tigger, all while singing and bumbling his way through the 100 Acre Wood. So, what do I think of the movie? Well, ever since I was little, I thought this truly was a childhood classic, and it has one of the most heartwarming endings ever. And to further explain why I love the film, let's move on to Mustang Notes. Now, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh was the last film in the Disney canon in which Walt Disney had personal involvement with, since one of the shorts, Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, was released during his lifetime, and he was involved in the production of Blustery Day. It was always Walt Disney's intention to create a feature film, but he decided to make shorts instead, in order to familiarize US audiences with the characters. It was also the first in the Disney canon to be a package film ever since The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. The film was directed by John Louisbury and Wolfgang Reitherman. 6 years after the release of The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, Disney commissioned a 4th featurette called Winnie the Pooh and a Day for Eeyore, which premiered in theaters on March 11, 1983, but was not originally connected to the preceding films in any manner. It has since been added to home video releases of The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Also to note, the characters from the Pooh universe have spawned a franchise of various sequels and television programs like The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, My Friends Tigger and Pooh, and The Book of Pooh, along with clothing, books, toys, a few levels in the Kingdom Hearts series, and an attraction of the same name at Disneyland, Walt Disney World, and Hong Kong Disneyland, in addition to Pooh's Honey Hunt in Tokyo Disneyland. Plus, to this day, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh holds an unanimous critic approval rating of 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I find is very impressive, just like with the Phantom Toll Booth and the 2021 My Little Pony movie. As for the animation, well, in my personal opinion, this is classical Disney hand-drawn animation, so there's nothing to complain about here. Plus, I think there are times where the animation can be creative, like when it involves the storybook. For example, there are times when Pooh jumps from one page to another, there's the part where the rain washes the words, and there's the part where the narrator tips the book to the side in order to help Tigger down from a tall tree. Plus, I like that this film uses new animation to connect the stories together. Speaking of which, let's talk a little bit about each story and see what I think of them. Let's start with Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree. One morning, after doing his stoutness exercises, Winnie the Pooh attempts to get some honey from a bee tree. So, after claiming the tree didn't work, he borrows Christopher Robin's balloon, dunks himself in mud, and floats to the top of the honey tree incognito as a little black rain cloud. After escaping the angry bees, Pooh decides to get some honey from Rabbit. So, after stuffing his face with all of Rabbit's honey, Pooh attempts to climb out of Rabbit's front door, but unfortunately becomes stuck. No matter how hard everybody tries, they can't get him out. So they'll have to wait for Pooh to lose some weight before they can get him out. Then, along comes Gopher, who agrees to help get Pooh out, and almost feeds him more honey. But then, one morning, Pooh is finally freed from the doorway and ends up in another sticky situation, quite literally. To me, this is both a cute and charming story, and I thought the part where Pooh gets stuck in Rabbit's front door must have been really hard for him, and the ending really made me smile and laugh. Our next story is Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day. In this chapter, after Gopher warns him that it's Wednesday, Pooh goes off to wish all of his friends, including Piglet, a happy Wednesday. But Piglet is unfortunately lifted into the air by the strong winds. Pooh and Piglet then arrive at Owl's house, but unfortunately the wind blows so hard that his tree gets knocked down to the ground. Afterwards, during a blustery night, Pooh gets an unexpected visit from an unusual new friend, Tigger, who warns Pooh about Heffalumps and Woozles. But Heffalumps and Woozles are only half of Pooh's worries now, for a huge rainstorm has flooded the entire 100 Acre Wood. Pooh inadvertently saves Piglet from a waterfall, which gives Christopher Robin the idea to throw a hero party. But then during the celebration, Eeyore barges in and announces that he has found a new home for Owl. Unfortunately, the house he finds was actually Piglet's. But thankfully, Piglet does a very heroic thing and turns over his home to Owl. And in the end, both Pooh and Piglet have a two-hero party. To me, this is another charming story, and I'll never forget the time when my friends Allison and Bryce King showed it to me when I visited them. Also, I thought the part where Pooh tries to prevent Piglet from getting blown away was pretty funny, especially during the part where they crashed into Eeyore's house and Rabbit's carrot patch. Also, I thought the part where Owl's house gets blown down was really tragic. And the part where the 100 Acre Wood becomes flooded was pretty intense. Plus, I loved the part where Pooh and Piglet both become heroes. And finally, we have our last story, Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2. In this chapter, Rabbit is getting really tired of Tigger always bouncing him, so he gets Pooh and Piglet together to come up with an idea to get the bounce out of him. Rabbit suggests that they take him into the middle of nowhere and leave him there overnight. The idea unfortunately backfires, and Rabbit, Piglet, and Pooh find themselves lost in the mist. But thankfully, Pooh's tummy guides them home. Then, during a snow day, Tigger and Roo go out for a bounce, but they unfortunately get caught up in a tall tree, which Tigger is too afraid to get down from. And Rabbit makes Tigger promise that if they ever help Tigger down, he can never bounce again. So, Tigger is rescued, and he feels really sad that he can no longer bounce. But everyone, including Rabbit, agrees that they like the old bouncy Tigger better. Now, I must confess, this is the very first Winnie the Pooh short that I ever watched. And after watching it at my grandmother's house when I was little, I thought it was a really fun short due to all the bouncing, and like the Tigger movie, it really made me love Tigger a lot. However, the part where Rabbit gets lost in the mist and becomes traumatized by all sorts of noises was a very disturbing scene, and I thought the part where Tigger tries to ice skate was one of the funniest scenes ever. Now, what would be a Disney film let alone a Winnie the Pooh movie, without memorable and catchy songs. The songs were written by the classic team of Richard and Robert Sherman, who also composed songs for The Sword and the Stone, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Mary Poppins, The Jungle Book, The Aristocats, and of course the Tigger movie. Anyway, for now, I'd like to talk about 5 of these songs. First is the opening song, Winnie the Pooh, where we are introduced to the characters of the 100 Acre Wood. To me, this is a childhood classic theme song, and I love that it's used as background music in the Kingdom Hearts series. Next is Up, Down, Touch the Ground, sung by Pooh during his stoutness exercises, in which he does to make him hungry. Now, believe it or not, this was actually the very first Winnie the Pooh song that I ever heard, due to the fact that it was featured on the Hi-Ho Sing-Along VHS, which I've watched before I watched any Winnie the Pooh short. And I also like that it was sung in the Christopher Robin movie 5 years ago. To me, this is a really cute exercise song, and I thought the funniest part was when Pooh's backside tears, and I also like the final section where Thurl Ravenscroft and a chorus sing in the background. Our next song is Rumbly in My Tumbly, which is sung by Pooh while he tries to climb up a tree in an attempt to obtain some honey from a bee's nest. To me, this is another charming song, and I'll never forget the time where I was introduced to it by watching the Disneyland Fun Sing-Along VHS, which also had 2 new verses. Also, as I said earlier, the reprise version where Pooh is eating some honey after being thrown all the way up into the honey tree really makes me laugh and smile. Next is Little Black Rain Cloud, sung by Pooh and Christopher Robin, while the silly old bear uses a balloon to float up to a honey tree. Now this is another cute song, and I find it pretty clever that Pooh tries to fool the bees while being covered in mud. Plus, I like that I was introduced to it while watching the You Can Fly Sing-Along VHS. The last song to talk about is Heffalumps and Woozles, which is performed by the Mellow Men during Pooh's nightmare caused by Tigger, in which Pooh is terrified of them because they steal honey. To me, while this song is pretty eccentric, I still find it to be pretty funny, and ever since I was introduced to it after watching the BR Guest Sing-Along VHS, I couldn't help but sing along too. Also, my favorite part of the song is the instrumental bit, which happens before the final verse, where we see a marching band, a dancing heffalump couple, a heffalump with a honey harp, and 2 heffalumps with accordion trunks. And now let's move on to the characters and the voice actors who brought him to life. Winnie the Pooh is voiced by the legendary Sterling Holloway, whom was a grown-up flower in Bambi, Mr. Stork from Dumbo, the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland, Kaa from The Jungle Book, and Roquefort from The Aristocats. To me, as usual, Pooh is an adorable and humble character, and while being a bear of very little brain, he tends to process things at a slower pace than his friends, to the point of seeming disoriented. But at the same time, Pooh is extremely naive and optimistic. Pooh's best friend, Christopher Robin, is voiced by Bruce Reitherman, John Wamesley, and Timothy Turner. As the narrator says, Christopher Robin spent most of his childhood in the 100 Acre Wood, where he would embark on a number of adventures with his toy animals. To me, Christopher Robin is a friendly young boy, and he seems to be rather intelligent for a boy of his age. Plus, he's also adventurous and spirited. By the way, my favorite scenes involving Christopher Robin include the part where he lends Pooh a balloon in order to help him get some honey, and when he uses his coat as a net to catch Tigger and Roo when they get stuck in a tall tree. Also, I thought Christopher Robin and Pooh's conversation at the film's ending was a really emotional and heartwarming moment. Next we come to the lovable and bouncy Tigger, voiced by Paul Winchell, who'd also voiced Boomer in The Fox and the Hound, Zummy Gummy in The Adventures of the Gummy Bears, and Guy M.I. in Dr. Seuss on the Loose. As I previously stated, Tigger is my favorite character in Pooh's gang, mainly due to his fun-loving and carefree personality, along with his rambunctiousness and loyalty. Plus, I like that in this movie, Tigger has an entire story centered on him. And I really love that wonderful thing about Tigger's song, where he prides himself on being the only Tigger in existence. Rabbit is voiced by Junius Matthews, whom was Archimedes in The Sword and the Stone, and a dog named Scotty in 101 Dalmatians. Now, I must confess that Rabbit is my least favorite character in Pooh's gang. Now hear me out, folks. If you like Rabbit, that's fine. I won't give you flack for it. It's just that, while he does have a few good moments, like when he shares some honey with Pooh, when he tries to get Pooh loose from his front door, and when he decorates Pooh's bottom like a hunting trophy, my main issue with Rabbit is his fussiness, and the fact that he becomes very uncomfortable and intolerable of Tigger's bouncing, which to me makes Rabbit very mean-spirited. Piglet is voiced by John Fielder, who had also voiced in Robin Hood, The Rescuers, The Fox and the Hound, and The Emperor's New Groove. Due to his small size and flimsiness, Piglet is an incredibly timid, fragile, and insecure animal. Plus, Piglet also has a speech impediment which causes him to stutter. To me, despite his phobias, I like that Piglet is one of Pooh's closest friends, and I thought it was very noble of him to give Owl his grandfather, Trespassers William's old beech tree. Next we come to Kanga, voiced by Barbara Luddy, best known as Lady from Lady and the Tramp, Merryweather in Sleeping Beauty, and Mother Rabbit and Little Sister from Robin Hood. Kanga is easily the most down-to-earth resident of the 100 Acre Wood, and being a mother, Kanga is sweet and nurturing, like when she and Roo give Pooh some flowers to make him feel better. Next we come to Kanga's son, Roo, voiced by Clint Howard and Dory Whitaker. Roo is the youngest resident of the 100 Acre Wood, and I like that he looks up to Tigger and dreams of bouncing just like him someday. Plus, Roo can be very mischievous, energetic, and fearless. And in my opinion, the funniest and craziest scene involving Roo is when he swings on Tigger's tail. Owl is voiced by Hal Smith, who'd later vocalize as Philippe in Beauty and the Beast. Owl is considered by most to be the smartest resident of the 100 Acre Wood. He's known for talking about his many relatives, and he tends to tell long, drawn-out stories which tend to bore his listeners. Next we come to gloomy old Eeyore, voiced by Disney animator and storyboard writer Ralph Wright. Eeyore seems to enjoy being gloomy to an extent, and he sees it as an essence of his very being. Nevertheless, he seems genuinely appreciative of the effort his friends put forward to cheer him up, and he's still a good friend. During this movie, not only does Eeyore lose his tail, which Christopher Robin nails back in, but he also assists in pulling Pooh out of Rabbit's doorway, and he tasks himself with finding a new home for Owl. Another character to talk about is Gopher, voiced by Howard Morris, who'd later play Dr. Zettel in Splash. In my eyes, Gopher is not only an original character who's not from the A.A. Milne books, but I also find him to be a very underrated character in the Pooh universe. And I like the fact that he's a hard worker and an expert digger. Also, while Gopher is sadly absent in most of the other Pooh films, I like that he's still featured in 42 episodes of Pooh's animated series and in the Kingdom Hearts games. And the narrator is voiced by Sir Ector / Bagheera himself, Sebastian Cabot. Need I say more? And now for my final words. Overall, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh is such a delightful childhood classic. The characters are lovable and memorable, the stories are fun, charming, and nostalgic, the hand-drawn animation is classical, the songs are timeless Disney tunes, and it includes one of the best endings in a Disney film that is sure to bring even the toughest person in tears. And I just hope to share this movie with my children if I ever gain a family of my own in the future. I give it the highest rating of 100%. Well, friends, that's all for now, but I'm not done just yet. Join me next time as we look at Pooh's big screen animated sequel from 2011. Until then, to be continued.